Hi, this is Krista at The Secret Yarnery. Today we are making this fabulous Beached Granny Easy Crochet Mesh Top. In this easy to follow step-by-step crochet tutorial, I show you how to crochet this stunning mesh top. It is super easy to remember, one row repeat, perfect for beginners, and can be worn in a bunch of different ways. So you can use it as a beach cover-up, to cover your arms, or to elevate any outfit at all. If English isn't your first language, you can click this gear on the video and scroll through to find your preferred dialect. And if you want to follow along with written pattern, all of my patterns are available on my website, secretyarnery.com. And you don't have to worry about being able to read a pattern. All of my patterns are written in plain English, just like I was sitting there right beside you. For my Beached Granny Easy Crochet Mesh Top, I have used 5.5 balls of Cotton Bamboo Light from Ice Yarns, which is 550 grams or 19.4 ounces. There's 140 meters per 100 grams or 153 yards per 3.53 ounces. So in total, I used 770 meters or 842 yards. This is a super gorgeous yarn, but you could use any natural fiber you have on hand. Just make your starting chain any multiple of 6 plus 3. I am using a 6.5 millimeter crochet hook for my top, but you can use whatever hook size is recommended on your yarn label. You will also need 10 stitch markers, a needle for sewing in your ends, and a pair of scissors. Here are the timestamps. You can jump back into where you left off, and let's get started. So this is super easy. We're just going to make a slip knot, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Shrink that down, pop it onto your hook, and now we're going to chain any multiple of 6, but for this yarn and the size I want to make, we're going to be chaining 96 plus 3. Now to use our stitch markers, we're going to be crocheting sets of 12, because our repeat is 6, so we're going to put in a stitch marker every second repeat, so every 12. So go ahead and chain 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And now we're going to put a stitch marker into that last stitch. So just holding your chain pretty side facing up, we're just going to put a stitch marker into that bottom loop right there. That's where we're going to be working into this pattern or into our chain. And go ahead and chain 12 more. 1, 2, 3. And just a tip for while you're chaining, make sure you're pushing your loops onto the fat part of your hook. You don't want to be chaining really tiny just down here. Your loops will be too tight later on, so just make sure you're sliding your loops up to the fat part of your hook. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And again, just looking at your pretty side of your stitches, pop a stitch marker into that 12th chain. Just like that. So pause the video, keep working along, making 12 chains and popping a stitch marker into that bottom loop all the way along, and I'll meet you when you have used up all your stitch markers. Are you enjoying this tutorial? Go ahead and hit this button under this video right now so you don't miss out on any more quick and easy fun tutorials just like this. So I've used up all my stitch markers. So there is 8 sets of 12, so we have chained 96. Just at our last chain right there. So go ahead and chain 3 more. 1, 2, 3. So there is our chain 99. And now we're going to be working into our chain all the way back along to start our shawl. And this is the fiddly bit. It takes some time, but the rest of your shawl is going to be super fast. So let's just go nice and slow together. And just remember, you can slow me down or speed me up. You can adjust me using that gear on the video just to make sure I'm going at the right speed for you. You can also pause the video and get caught up. There is no shame in crocheting at your own speed. So wrap your yarn, and we're going to go into that stitch with our stitch marker, or the 4th chain from your hook. So skipping 3 and working in to the 4th chain right where our stitch marker is. And we're going to go in where our stitch marker is, just this bottom loop underneath our hook. So 1 double crochet, to start. I leave my stitch markers in just in case I need to adjust my stitch count or anything like that. If they get in the way, you can take them out, but I just leave them, especially if I want to go back to my project later and remember how many I chained. So we have worked into this stitch with our stitch marker. So this one we have worked into, and we're just going to be looking at these bottom loops. So don't bother looking for V's or anything. Just look for these loops right at the bottom. That's the only place we're going to be counting our chains all the way along. So we've worked into this loop here. We're going to skip 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to go in to the 5th right there. So wrap your yarn, skip 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, into the 5th, 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet into the same chain. So we're making a little V-stitch just like that. Now we're going to work into the next chain. So we've gone into this loop here, this loop at the bottom. We're going to go right into the next stitch, the next chain, which is right here. Remember, we're just looking at these bottom loops. So we're going into that next chain right there, and we're going to do a V-stitch. So 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. So it looks like that. We're doing 2 V-stitches together, or stitch after stitch. So now we're going to skip 4 again. So we've worked into this loop here. Remember, just look at the bottom. So we've worked into this one. This bottom loop is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and we're going in to number 5, which is right here. It is also the stitch before our stitch marker, or the chain before our stitch marker. So that is where we're going to be putting in our hook. So wrap your yarn, skip 4, and into the 5th, a V-stitch, 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. Into the very next chain, right where our stitch marker is, the exact same spot, we're another V-stitch, so 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet into that same chain. Just like that. So that is the repeat working across our entire row. So skipping 4, so it doesn't count where we worked into this big loop here. We worked into it. The first one is right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going in to number 5. So wrap your yarn, skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, into number 5, 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet into the same stitch. Into the next chain, and remember we want to go into that bottom loop. We're always working into the bottom. So right there, another V-stitch. So 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. So skipping 4, so not the big loop, we've already worked into it with our stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, working into number 5 right here, right before our stitch marker. So wrap your yarn and into the 5th stitch, 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. Into the next chain, right where that stitch marker is, exact same spot as the stitch marker, another V-stitch. So 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. So now you can pause the video and keep working along, skipping 4 chains and doing a V-stitch into the 5th and a V-stitch into the next, skipping 4 and repeating that all the way along your chain, and I'll meet you when we get closer to the end of our chain. When you get to the end of your row, you'll have 5 chains left. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you have extra chains, you can always unpick your slip knot and remove those extra chains. Don't do it yet. Do it when you have already crocheted into it. And if you have only 4 chains left, it's okay. Just use that very last chain. But ideally, of course, we want 5. Wrap your yarn, and into that very last chain, it doesn't matter if we go into the top or the bottom, go in and make 2 double crochets. So no chaining, just 2 double crochets into that last stitch. And that finishes round 1. To start round 2, chain 3, 1, 2, 3. This is also the repeat round for double crochet rounds. So if we're doing double crochets, this is also the repeat for that. So chain 3, turn your work, and we're going to start in that second stitch. So not the stitch right by the chain, not that guy. We're going into the second chain right there. So into the second chain, 1 double crochet. And now look at your next set of shells, this right here. We're going to be working into each of those 2 center ones. So I think of these as my trees. So we're going to do V's into trees. So we're going to go into this stitch right here. That's our first tree. And we're going to go into our second tree right there. Those are the only 2 spots we're working in along the whole row. Each of those trees in the center there, this is where we're going to be working in. Just those 2 center stitches. So into that first tree, we're going to do a V. So put your hook in, 2 strands of that stitch on your hook, wrap your yarn, and a V. So double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. There is our V into our tree. Wrap your yarn into the next stitch, that second tree. We're going to do a V. So 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. Skipping over to our next set of stitches, finding those 2 center trees, those 2 right there, into the first tree, a V. So 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. And into the next tree, 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. So a V into a tree. That's what we're doing all the way along our row. So wrap your yarn, find those next 2 trees, those center stitches, and a V into each. So 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. That's into the first tree. And into the second tree, 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. So you can pause the video and keep working along, doing a V into each of our trees all the way along. Just find those 2 center stitches that are facing up and a V into each one all the way along our work, and I will meet you when we get to the end of this row. At the end of your row, after we've done our last V's into those trees, we have our 2 stitches left. Don't worry about this big loopy thing at the bottom. We're going to work into that at the end. Once we have finished the height, we're going to come back and work into all of these spots here. So don't worry about what the bottom looks like, especially here at the end. That is absolutely fine. Now we are going to work into our stitch right here, and we're also working into our chain. I just want to get 1 loop on the top of my hook. So we're also going to be going into that chain right there. So wrap your yarn and into the stitch, 1 double crochet, and into our chain, you want 2 strands of that chain on the top of your hook, 1 double crochet. So that is how we're always going to end, is with our 2 stitches into the last 2 stitches on the row below. And that finishes row 2. To start row 3, this is our treble crochet repeat. So this is how we're going to be doing our treble crochet rows for the rest of the pattern. So we're going to start our treble crochet row with a chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Turn your work, and we're always working into that second stitch. So not our chain, we're working into that second stitch right here. We always want to begin and end with 2 stitches, so we get like a double stitched row along our edge. So wrap your yarn twice and into that second stitch, 1 treble crochet. Wrap your yarn twice and into your trees. We're going to do the same as we did the last row, but we're going to use treble crochets. So into the first tree, 1 treble crochet, chain 1, and 1 treble crochet into the same stitch. Just like that. And into our second tree, the same thing, 1 treble crochet, chain 1, and 1 treble crochet into that same stitch. So it's the same as we did before, but we get a lot more height, and our beach cover-up is really going to start going super, super fast now. So find your next set of trees, wrap your yarn twice, and we're going to do a treble crochet V into each one. So 1 treble crochet, chain 1, and 1 treble crochet into each of these stitches, each of the trees. Go into the second tree, 1 treble crochet, chain 1, wrap your yarn twice, and 1 more treble crochet into that same stitch. Just like that. So wrap your yarn twice, find your next set of trees, and a treble crochet V into each. So 1 treble crochet, chain 1, and 1 treble crochet into that stitch. Wrap your yarn twice and into the next tree or that next stitch, 1 treble crochet, chain 1, wrap your yarn twice, and 1 more treble crochet into the same stitch. So that is the repeat for our treble crochet rounds. So you can pause the video and keep working along, doing a treble crochet, chain 1 treble crochet into each of our trees all the way along this row. And I'll meet you when we get to the end of our row. When you get to the end of your row, we have our stitch and our chain left. We're going to do 1 treble crochet into each. So into that last stitch, 1 treble crochet. Wrap your yarn twice and into our chain, our last treble crochet. Just make sure you have 2 strands of that chain on the top of your hook. 1 treble crochet. And that finishes your treble crochet repeat. Now pause the video and keep working along. You want to do 4 more rows of this treble crochet. So we're going to do, this is number 1, we're going to do 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 4 more rows, a total of 5 rows of our treble crochets. So pause the video, do your next 4 rows, total of 5, and I will meet you back. So here are the 5 rows of treble crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we're going to do 2 rows of double crochets. So here's what we do for our double crochet rows. Chain 3 to start. 1, 2, 3, and turn your work. 1 double crochet into that second stitch. 1 double crochet. And into our trees, we do regular V's. So double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. So same as our treble rows, except we're just doing doubles. Like that. So into each tree, we do a V. And V's for double crochet rows are 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. So we're going to do this for 2 rows. So you can pause the video and meet me at the end of this row, and I'll just remind you how to end the row of double crochet. So pause the video and I'll meet you right here. At the end of your row, we have our last stitch and our chain. So we're going to do 1 double crochet into that last stitch and 1 double crochet into the chain. So pause the video and make 1 more double crochet round, and I will meet you back for the rest of the pattern repeat. So the repeat for this pattern, we've done our 5 rows of treble crochet, our 2 rows of double. After that, it is 7 rows of treble crochet and 2 rows of doubles. Then after your rows of double crochet, we're going to be doing 4 rows of treble crochet. So 4 rows of treble crochet and 4 rows of doubles. So pause the video until you have finished your last row of double crochet way up at the top, and I will meet you at the bottom for putting on the edging. So there is the last 4 rows we need to do. And you're going to make 1 more piece exactly like this all the way up, including these 4 rows. But on this piece, I'm going to show you how to do the next row. But the second side, the second piece you're doing, we are going to stop right here. But for now, let's go ahead and do this last row at the top. Chain 1 and turn your work, and we're going to go right into this very first stitch right here with a single crochet, right into the first stitch. 1 single crochet, and 1 single crochet into the next stitch. So that is how we are starting. Chain 1, and now into our trees at the top up here, we're going to do half double crochets. So wrap your yarn and into the first tree, 1 half double crochet. Wrap your yarn and into the second stitch or the second tree, another half double crochet. Chain 1, and into these 2 stitches at the bottom in the valley, 1 single crochet into each. 1 and 2. Chain 1 and 2 half double crochets into our trees or into the top of the hill. 1 half double crochet into each. Chain 1 and 1 single crochet into each of the stitches at the bottom of the valley. 1 single crochet into each stitch. So we're just working along like this, just giving a little bit of a finished edge to the top of our shawl or our cover-up. Chain 1 into the 2 trees or the top of our hill. 1 half double crochet into each. 1 and 2, chain 1 and 2 single crochets into the bottom of the hill or into the valley. 2 single crochets, 1 into each stitch. So you can pause the video, keep working along, doing your chain 1 and half double crochets into both stitches at the top of your hill. A chain 1 and 2 single crochets into those stitches at the bottom of the hill. 1 and 2. So pause the video and keep working along the top of your beach wrap, your Watamu beach cover-up, and I'll meet you right over here. At the end of your row, I've worked into the hill with those 2 half double crochets. So chain 1, and we're going to do a single crochet into our last stitch and a single crochet into the chain. So 1 single crochet into the last stitch, and 1 single crochet into the chain, and that finishes our row. So chain 1 to secure your yarn, cut your yarn, and pull your hook up and your yarn through, and snug that down to secure. So now go ahead and get your next side ready. So you need 2 pieces just like this, but don't do that last round of single crochet. So go ahead and get the piece you have completed with the single crochet edge laying above you, facing you. So this is our 4 rows with our cute edge already on it, pretty V's facing up. And our second piece, we've done our 4 rows of double crochet. At the end of our row, we are just going to chain 1 and turn our work. Now we want to mark our neckline, or where we're going to keep it open for our neck. So we have 15 sets of these columns all the way across. So we're going to do 5 for the shoulder, 5 for your neck opening, and 5 for your shoulder. So count your 5 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to go into that tree, that stitch closest to the center, closest to our neckline. So that marks 1. And now we can go to the other side, and we want to count our 5 again. So 5 in from each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to put that stitch marker in the top of the tree closest to our neckline. Just get a stitch marker. So I'm going to pop it into that stitch right here. So the stitch closest to our neck opening. So now we can just check that we have 5 columns for our center. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Perfect. So we have our top, our completed top. We've done our single crochet on the piece that is facing us. Now we are ready to work our single crochet row. We're going to join as you go for our shoulders and leave it open for the neck. We're just going to go along here and then join as you go for the other shoulder, just so we have maximum stretch and usability. Our whole garment will have the same stretch and feel. So that is super great. So to start our row of single crochet, just make sure you've done your single crochet and turn your work. And now we're going to start right here. So I want my finished work above me. Now put your hook down. You'll see this very first stitch right here. That is where we're going to work into. So pop your hook down into that first stitch. Bring your yarn through and slip stitch to join. Chain 1 to give yourself a little bit of space. And now we're just going to keep working along this side like we normally would. So 1 single crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, and 1 half double crochet at the top of the hill or into that first tree. 1 half double crochet. Now looking at the work we have finished, we want to find those 2 half double crochets at the top. Right here, there's 1 and 2. We're going to work right in between them. You can just go into that stitch in between those 2 stitches that work into your tree. So you can look for your trees, and you can look for the stitches that work into your trees, these guys. We want to go into that stitch in between them. So just pop your hook down and bring your yarn up and through. Slip stitch to join and chain 1. And now we're going to finish this side of our shawl or our poncho or our beach cover-up. So into the next stitch, the next tree, right beside the next stitch, 1 half double crochet, chain 1, 2 single crochets into those stitches at the bottom, 1 single crochet into each, and chain 1. Now into the top of our trees or the top of our hill, 1 half double crochet into the first. Look at the block you have finished. We want to look for our next hill or our next column. It's right here, and our stitches are a little bit to the side. right here. We want to go in, so our trees are here and our half doubles are here. We want to go right into that stitch in between them. So just pop your hook down and bring your yarn up. Turn your hook and slip stitch to join and chain 1 to give yourself a little bit of space. So we're just doing a nice loose join into the next stitch, that next tree or the next center stitch of the column we're working on. 1 half double crochet, chain 1, 2 single crochets, 1 into each stitch at the bottom of our valley. There is 1 and 2, chain 1, and 1 half double crochet into the top of our hill. That first tree gets a half double crochet. Now look at the work we have finished. We put that edge on it. Look for your center trees, 1 and 2, and look for your stitches, 1 and 2. So our stitches are a little bit to the side. We want to go right in to that center stitch to join, right in between. So pop your hook down in between those stitches. Bring your yarn up, slip stitch to join, and chain 1. Now just forget about this block we're working on. Just work on the side of our shawl that we have in front of us. So 1 half double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, 1 single crochet into each stitch in the valley, 1 and 2, chain 1, and 1 half double crochet into the first tree, or that first stitch at the top of our hill. Look at the work we have joined. Look for that next column. So we're just working into each column 1 time. So look for your trees, 1 and 2, those center stitches, and the stitches that worked in there into those stitches. And look for the center one. So it is right here. So pop your hook down into that center stitch. Bring your yarn up and through and slip stitch to join and chain 1. Now work along the shawl or the side of the shawl we are joining. So half double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, 1 single crochet into each of those stitches at the bottom of the valley, 1 and 2, chain 1, 1 half double crochet into the stitch at the top of the hill or our first tree, 1 half double crochet, and this is going to be our last join. So you can pop that stitch marker out. It was just to tell us when we had to slow down. Look for that center or those center trees and those 2 stitches that work into those trees, and we want to go right into that stitch right in between them, right there. So pop your hook down into that stitch and bring it up, slip stitch to join and chain 1. Into the next stitch, you can also take that stitch marker out, 1 half double crochet, and we're going to go in and slip stitch into the next stitch as well. So just into this next stitch, just pop your hook in. We want 2 joins because it's right around our neck. So slip stitch to join and chain 2, 1 and 2. Now into the bottom of our valley, 1 single crochet into each stitch, 1 and 2. Now we can kind of almost get rid of this piece on top. We're just going to be working into the front or just along the neckline until we reach our stitch marker. So no more joining until we reach our stitch marker. So chain 1 and 1 half double crochet into each stitch at the top of our hill or each tree, 1 half double crochet into each, chain 1, 1 single crochet into each stitch along the valley, chain 1, and then we're back up to the top of our trees. So 1 half double crochet into each tree at the top of our hill, chain 1, and back down into the valley. So you can pause the video and keep working along, doing 2 single crochets into the valley, a chain 1, and 2 half double crochets into the top of the hill, or those trees at the center of our work, the top of our hill, with a chain 1 all the way along until you reach our stitch marker. So there we are, we've worked along. I've done my 2 single crochets into the valley, chain 1, and 1 half double crochet into that first tree of that column we're joining in. Right where our stitch marker is, 1 half double crochet. You can pop that stitch marker out, and now look at the work we are joining to. So we're going to go in not just into the center stitch, we're going to go into the stitch before also. We're going to join twice, just because it's a bit of a stress point right around our neckline. So right into this stitch right here, just pop your hook down and bring your yarn up and slip stitch and chain 1. Now into the next stitch on the block we are working on, or the side we're working on, 1 half double crochet. And now right where our stitch marker is, we can pop that stitch marker out, and into the next stitch of our completed side, we're going to go right into this stitch, right there to slip stitch. So slip stitch to join and chain 1. Into the 2 stitches at the bottom, 1 single crochet into each. There's 1 and 2. Chain 1, and into the very first tree, 1 half double crochet. Look at your work for the next column we haven't joined to, right over here. Look for your center trees, or your 2 trees, 1 and 2, and those stitches that go into our trees, we're going to work into that center stitch right there. So into that center stitch, slip stitch to join and chain 1. 1 half double crochet into the side we are joining, chain 1 and 2 single crochets into the valley. So 1 single crochet into each, chain 1, and 1 half double crochet into that first tree, or that first stitch of our hill. Now grab our completed side, look for your 2 trees, 1 and 2, look for those stitches that go into your trees, 1 and 2, and look for that center stitch right there. That's where we're going to pop our hook down, grab our yarn, bring it through, and slip stitch. Chain 1. 1 half double crochet into that next stitch on the side we are joining. Chain 1 and 1 single crochet into each stitch at the bottom of the valley. 1 and 2. Chain 1 and 1 half double crochet into the first tree, or that first stitch at the top of our hill. On the side we have completed, look for our trees, 1 and 2, and look for those stitches, 1 and 2. We want to go in to that center stitch right there. So pop your hook down and bring your yarn up and slip stitch and chain 1. 1 half double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, and 1 single crochet into each stitch at the bottom of the valley. 1 and 2, chain 1. 1 half double crochet into the first tree at the top of our hill, or that first stitch at the top of our hill, half double crochet. Looking at our work, our last full column, so our center trees, 1 and 2, and the stitches working into them, 1 and 2. Look for that center stitch and put your hook down into that center stitch. Bring your yarn up and slip stitch to join and chain 1. 1 half double crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, 1 single crochet into that last stitch, 1 single crochet into the chain, and now we're going to slip stitch into the last stitch of the side we have finished. Right there, we're going to slip stitch just to finish that join. So slip stitch to join and chain 1. Now before you cut your yarn, you can just pop a stitch marker in it. Before you cut your yarn, just go back along and make sure that your joins line up. We just want these cute little openings along our shoulders and that everything lines up. So same number of stitches for your neckline and that your shoulder stitches also line up. Then go ahead and cut your yarn and pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. So now we have finished joining them together. We are ready to work on the border. To work on your border, do not turn your work, leave it straight like we are right now. We want to work into the same side and just get that bottom edge ready. We just want to make sure all of our finishes, all of our last stitches are facing the same direction. And we're going to start over on this one side. You can pop all of your stitch markers out if you haven't already. We're going to do 2 rows of our double crochet, but I'll show you where to put your stitches in for this very first round. So same hook, and where we want to look to join is the same chain. So just this one little chain. What we can do is just go in so you still get 2 strands on your hook. We can kind of cheat a little bit. Loop of your yarn on your hook, bring it through and slip stitch with both strands to join, dropping your tail and chain 2. 1 and 2. And into the next chain, 2 strands on the top of your hook. We're going to do 1 double crochet. So that just gets our starting back to how it was or how it should be for the rest of the pattern. So now we're going to pop straight over. We're going to just mirror exactly what we did in the pattern, but we're going to work right into the same stitch or the same chain as we did for our shawl or for our wrap or cover up. So wrap your yarn and into the same stitch, just right there. We're going to do a V-stitch. So 1 double crochet, chain 1, and 1 double crochet. And we're going to do that into each of these stitches all the way along. So we're going to do a V-stitch, a V-stitch, a V-stitch, a V-stitch, all the way along the bottom of our shawl, just mirroring what we did, except now we're working down on our little edging. So a V-stitch underneath each V-stitch all the way along. Even if it's just that little loop, that's absolutely fine. We're just going to go in and do a V-stitch underneath each V-stitch that went up. We're going to do one that's going down, even though it looks like we're going up right now. So we're just going to go like that all the way along the bottom of our shawl. It's almost a little bit easier. We don't have to count anything. We're just looking for where those stitches came from, where our V's came from in the beginning, and we're just going to put a V into each one all the way along. So you can pause the video, keep working along, a V-stitch into each stitch where our V-stitch started for our shawl, all the way along, just like that. So pause the video and keep working along. I will meet you when we get to the end of this row. At the end of your row, we can do 1 double crochet into that last chain, 2 strands of that chain on the top of your hook, and 1 into that last stitch. Just like that. So now the bottom of our shawl, our wrap, our beach wrap, has our stitches ready for us. So just do 1 more row of your double crochet. So do your chain 3, turn, double crochet V stitches all the way back along, and I'll meet you at the end of that row. So at the end of our row, we are going to do the same as we did along the neckline, just all along the bottom of our shawl. So to start the bottom edging, chain 1 and turn your work, 1 single crochet into each of these 2 stitches. So into the first, 1 single crochet, into the second, 1 single crochet, and then wrap your yarn jumping straight over into that very first tree, 1 half double crochet, and 1 half double crochet into the next stitch as well. Chain 1, skipping down into this valley, 1 single crochet into each, 1 and 2, chain 1, 1 half double crochet into each of these trees or those center stitches, 1 half double crochet into each, chain 1 and 1 single crochet into both of those stitches at the bottom, chain 1. Into the trees, into those center stitches, those trees, 1 half double crochet into each. There's 1 and 2, chain 1, and into the stitches at the bottom of the valley, 1 single crochet into each with a chain 1. So you can pause the video and keep working along, just doing the same pattern. So 2 single crochets into the valley, chain 1, 2 half double crochets into the top of the hill, chain 1, all the way along the bottom of your shawl, and I will meet you when we get to the end of the row. At the end of your row, I've done my 2 half double crochets into my center trees. So chain 1, and I'm going to do 1 single crochet into that last stitch and 1 single crochet into the chain, just like we usually do. So 1 into the last stitch and 1 into the chain. Chain 1 and cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. Now do this on the other side of your shawl, adding these 2 rows, actually adding these 3 rows, including that last cute little edging. To make your belt, just make a slip knot any which way you normally do. Shrink that down and pop it onto your hook. And chain the length you want your belt to be. For me, I am chaining 135, but you could chain any number at all. You can start with 135, and if you want it to be longer, just go ahead and add chains until it is the length you want it to be. Just remember that you will also be tying it, so you want to leave some extra length to hang underneath your bow and also the bow itself. So you will need maybe about 18 inches plus the diameter of your waist. But of course, you could make your chain any length you like. For this tutorial, I'm just going to be doing a shorter version. And you're going to skip this very first chain right here. We're going to work into the second chain. And we're just going to do 1 single crochet into that second chain. It doesn't matter if you're going into the top loop or you're going into the bottom loop. Just do the same for the whole way along. For me, it's easier just to go into the top loop, and then working back, I'm going to go into the bottom. So into the next top loop, or that next chain, 1 single crochet, and 1 single crochet into each chain all the way along your chain. So each chain gets 1 single crochet. So you can pause the video and keep working along, 1 single crochet into each chain, and I'll meet you when we get to the end. When you get to the end of your chain, you'll have one chain left. Just go ahead and bring that tail forward so we can work over it for a couple stitches. And now into that very last chain, we're going to do 3 single crochets. So pop your hook in, work over your tail, and make 3 single crochets into that last chain. There is 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to work along the other side of our chain, and each chain is going to be getting 1 single crochet. So just look where your single crochet is on the other side and just slide your hook in. You're going to end up getting those 2 strands on your hook. So 1 single crochet into each chain, working back along the other side. We can drop our tail. We need to sew that in with a needle anyway. So 1 single crochet into each chain, all the way back along this side, just like that. So you can pause the video and keep working along. 1 single crochet into each chain, and I'll meet you when we get back to where we started. When you get back to where we started, this is our starting chain right here. So into that very last chain, we're going to do 2 single crochets. So just pop your hook in and 2 single crochets, just like that. And now we are going to cut our yarn without joining. So we've just done our single crochet. We have 2 loops underneath our hook. We're going to go ahead and cut our yarn and pull your hook up and your yarn through. So we haven't joined. We're going to do an invisible join, and I'm going to show you how great it is. So go ahead and thread your needle. It looks just like that. And we're going to look for our very first single crochet, this very first V right over there. That's where we'd be putting our crochet hook in if we were working into our work. So we're going to put our needle into the very same spot. If you're using a sharp tip needle, go ahead and use the blunt end and just go underneath both strands of that first stitch, just like that. Bring your yarn through and take a look at where it's coming from. We want to keep an eye on this loop right there, where our yarn is coming from. We're going to go right back down right there. So pop your needle right back down into that stitch where the yarn came from. And now we can just shrink it up a little bit so that it looks like a regular stitch, just like that. So now go ahead and sew in your tail, and you are finished. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I did. I'm waiting for you in that video right there, and stay hooked.